My name is Just a Fan, and I am here to talk about Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi. I just saw it about 12 hours ago in the theater, or okay, like 15 hours ago, whatever. But it's fresh in my mind. I have a lot of things to say about it, and I hope you're excited. First things first, if you haven't seen the movie yet, don't watch this whole review. Just watch the first part here, and I'll warn you before I start talking about things you shouldn't know before you see the movie. By the way, they wouldn't let me bring my lightsaber into the movie theater. What the heck? Definitely go see the movie. It's worth it, you're not going to waste any money, and you're going to get some good Star Wars stuff. And I will say this, the things the movie does well, it does quite well. And there were a lot of things that did irk me throughout the movie. A lot of times where I said, oh, or had this weird, awkward feeling of uncomfortableness. But for all the things where I said, cool, or that I enjoyed, definitely were worth it. So the movie's worth it, even if there were some things that I didn't personally like. The original actors and characters were awesome. I loved seeing Mark Hamill. I loved seeing Carrie Fisher. I loved seeing C-3PO and R2-D2. And even the newer main characters like Rey, Finn, and Poe Dameron, they all did a pretty darn good job of just playing the role of those characters. Now, I was a little bit annoyed with what they did with some of the characters in that sense, but with how the actors portrayed the roles, it definitely was a good job. There's a huge sense of, like, foreboding doom and things that are going to be intimidating for the heroes, of the story. So in terms of when the movie kind of adds drama to the situation or adds obstacles for the characters to overcome, it's really quite serious, and there's a lot of points where your heart might be pounding pretty quick and thinking, oh my gosh, what is actually going to happen to these characters, or this character? It's pretty crazy how much they really hammer on some of those details, or at least hammer in some of those elements to the movie, I guess I should say. Some scenes are a little bit weird in terms of how they did some humor, or how they did some things that were just forcibly... how do I say this? Some things, they tried to force the viewer to feel a certain way or to think a certain thing, and it didn't really work out. It's hard to explain this without spoiling anything, or at least giving out information that you shouldn't really know before you see the movie. But just some of the choices that were made kind of threw me off, and it was kind of in a way where the movie is too conscious of the viewer. Rather than like an original Star Wars, they would just show a story of adventures through space, and that we know of Star Wars. But now it's almost like movie creators are so aware of what society is talking about before a movie comes out, that they almost alter or create things in a way where it's not necessarily in response to what the viewers say, but it's, it's trying to yield something from the viewers. They want the viewer to feel a certain way or to think a certain thing. And sometimes that's okay. I mean, that's the whole point of filmmaking. You want to make something that's going to appeal to viewers. You want to make something that's going to make viewers feel something, whether it's a good feeling, a happy feeling, or even a depressed and foreboding feeling. So I do understand the concept of filmmaking and why people do it, and why I enjoy, watching film myself. But in this case, it just didn't seem like the right way to go about doing these types of things, where filmmakers create something to warrant something else. It's gonna be a hard thing to explain without spoilers, but and the thing is too, I seem to be one of the very few people in the movie theater who actually cared about some of these awkward moments. Half the time, all the rest of the crowd was clapping and laughing and saying "Aww," and I was thinking, did that not throw anybody else out of the movie with that kind of odd thing right there? So maybe it's just me. The movie's certainly fun, but it does remind me a bit of Star Wars Episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, just in terms of our heroes, the main characters, are in a lot of trouble. In Episode 5, they were on Hoth, they were getting attacked and had to escape, and then with the Millennium Falcon being chased into an asteroid field and being hunted, and eventually being chased to Bespin, Cloud City, and they were still being chased. There's a lot of element that seems to be similar in terms of the viewer and the characters have a lot to worry about. And so hopefully it doesn't throw anybody off that it is very similar to Episode 5. I know there was a huge discussion about Episode 7 and how similar it was to episode 4. I wouldn't say there's nearly, I hope this isn't a spoiler, I wouldn't say there's nearly as much about episode 8 and 5 that it's as similar as there was between episode 7 and 4. Although there were a few things, there were some lines and some scenes in episode 8 where I was thinking, God, I swear we've heard this before, and I only saw episode 8 once so far, so I haven't written anything down about it, I haven't reviewed it to myself, gone through it again to see what would be the same and what wasn't the same, but I had that feeling in the audience, sitting there in my awesome Jedi robes, thinking, we have heard this kind of thing before. We've seen this piece of things before, and so not a problem to me. But just in case somebody is worried about, well, how similar is it again to the next episode in the series? I would say not nearly enough to be worried about it. What do you say about a Star Wars movie without spoiling it? That's a hard thing to do, especially with such a big deal at the moment. Star Wars has been revived, it's coming back into culture, it's becoming a brand new big thing again for the third time now, I guess. And, it's been a huge thing since the first movie came out, but these revitalizations with the new trilogies are very interesting. And another interesting thing about that is the fact that this will probably not be just one new trilogy of Star Wars. We're looking at 12, 13, 14, 15, up to episode 18 in the next 20 to 30 years. So it's not really the same context of Star Wars that we've known it. Plus, George Lucas isn't necessarily the one who's doing, at the helm anymore. So totally different thing with the exact same thing. It makes me think of that one promotional video they made for episode 7 where Mark Hamill says, everything's changed. I mean, nothing's changed, but everything's changed. I mean, that really sums it up right there. And I actually love how that's the one comment they took from him, because he's so right. It couldn't be any more on the dot to say that everything has changed, but nothing really has changed, but everything really did change. And like I said in my previous video, kind of precursoring this video, talking about how I feel about Star Wars in general, I did seem to be correct in that the creators for episode 8 did seem to take a few risks that we wouldn't necessarily see from an older Star Wars movie. I do think the franchise as a whole and the upcoming episodes in probably 1, 2, 3 more years are going to be heading in directions that we haven't really seen before for Star Wars. And that's not necessarily going to be a bad thing, but it's very odd to me because it's like these movies might not even be Star Wars anymore, even though they're Star Wars. Like, I guess my question is, how far away from the original Star Wars tone, feel, emotion, and adventure can we get before something becomes not even really a Star Wars movie anymore, but it's still a Star Wars movie? It brings me back to what Mark Hamill said, everything's changed, but nothing's changed, but everything's changed. That really does feel like what's going to happen to Star Wars, and we're seeing the beginning parts of that. The seeds have been planted, and you might even say that the little leaves are coming out of that plant, if that analogy works. I did mention that there were quite a few things that got to me and irked me and pulled me out of the movie, but I don't want that to discourage you from seeing it for yourself or enjoying it for yourself. Just because any movie reviewer or any friend of yours or any random person says that a movie isn't good or certain parts of a movie aren't good, don't let that change your opinion unless you're really sure that you also feel the same way. And this one, I do like it, and I do want to love it, and I've actually, ever since I saw it, I've been trying to love it. It just isn't really working out the same way that I really like episode 7, and especially not the same way I like episodes 4, 5, and 6. So, take it for what it is. I guess this will be the point where I'll say spoilers are about to happen. So again, do not watch this part of the video or anybody else's review until you see the movie. Spoiler time! This is the time where I get to talk about the things I really want to say. And I did like a lot of the things about this movie, and I'm also going to point out a lot of things that really irked me. But again, that doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't like the movie or that you shouldn't like it either. For one thing, what the heck is up with this? We had this weird 2 scenes. I remember 2 scenes from the movie, and I've only seen it once, though, so then maybe there were more. But where Rey starts talking about parents all of a sudden. It was when she was under the island in that weird dark cave kind of thing, and they just mentioned it, and I was like, oh, I guess we're talking about her parents now, sure. It kind of like hit me from out of nowhere. But then when they do that thing where they have that wall of ice and they have these two shadowy figures coming together, it was like they were teasing who her parents are going to be. And then, of course, when they reveal what the figure was, it was just her. I don't care who Rey's parents are or who grandparents are, whether that's Obi-Wan or Luke or Han Solo and Leia, but it seems so odd to me that they would tease that in a scene when the whole point was to just say they're nobodies in a scene later. That wasn't really the way to do it to me. And again, it just seemed like the movie creators were trying to get a response out of the audience. Everybody knows that everybody was talking about who are Rey's parents going to be. And that brings me back to the thing about movie creators doing things in response to society and to the audience. Why would they tease that, like, other than the fact that they know everyone was talking about who are Rey's parents going to be? They didn't have to make such a big deal out of it just to make the audience say, oh, we're going to find out who they are. That was just kind of, it's like they did it just to, get us and say, ha, it's nobody. And it just didn't really seem like the way to do it. If they are going to be nobodies, which I really don't care if they are, don't have that teaser scene earlier in the movie where she talks about her parents and they have two shadowy figures. What I would have recommended for that type of thing is to have her mention it to herself at some point in the movie, but not make a thing out of it, and then have Kylo Ren, that guy, Ren, have him bring it up later in that scene and say, well, they were nobodies, like, we both know that type of thing. I like this character, Rose. She seems pretty cool. She knows how to get some things done, and she has a little bit of spunk to her, so I appreciate the way that she interacts with Finn and kind of keeps him on the right track. I was almost disappointed with the character of Finn. You'd think that any immaturity... Is immaturity a word? I know German better than I know English. But I almost feel like he was a little bit too immature going to that casino planet thing, just because he got so distracted by the super important thing they had going on. I mean, gosh, like, wouldn't his character be above the concept of the entire fate of the universe and this war going on with the First Order is happening? But here's some slot machines and things that are, seem to be based off similar casino games in real life. It took me out of the movie because I was like, I can't believe that his character, after going through what he's already been through, would be so easily distracted. I know it's a classic for someone to say, can't we just stay here and live happily forever? It seems like they were going for that type of thing, but that wasn't really something we needed in a Star Wars movie. It's totally a thing that works for other movies, but right here, with this already 2.5 hour movie, I wasn't so sure we needed a scene like that. What was up with the very end, by the way? I totally get how there was the shot on the Falcon with the remaining survivors, which there are not many of, by the way, and how they have a similar ending to most other Star Wars movies, where it has a frame, it's kind of holding on that frame for a bit, and the characters are just kind of there. And I like the way they did this one, by the way. Rather than having everyone there with a heroic stance and a great, good group picture shot of everyone being happy, it was like just downtrodden, I guess is the best word to say it. It was like a huge big, we finally got out of this massive nightmare we were in, and we're just kind of here now. So I like the way they did that part, and I don't want to say that's where the movie should have ended and credits should have rolled, but what was up with the thing that happened after that? Children telling a story, great, fun, I didn't mind that part, but just having a child who seems to have a connection with the Force, and is aware of it, by the way, which is interesting, very well aware of it, and then looking up at the stars and kind of implying that he needs to be someone important, or he's a new prodigy in the making to be a new Jedi, or something like that. But do we really need another new child Jedi prodigy person when we haven't already finished most of the other things that are happening in the story? When you think about it, or at least when I think about it, this movie didn't have a heck of a lot of plot to it. I mean, between some characters, yes, and in terms of Luke Skywalker and his history and his reconnection to the Resistance, yes, a little bit, but it was really more about the Resistance escaping from the very tight grasp of the First Order, which they do that type of thing a lot, but this was a very tight grasp. I mean, this was almost the end of everything for the Resistance, but the movie was very concentrated on that point. I almost thought that it was kind of weird, halfway through the movie, I was thinking, gosh, it's still the same thing, we're still trying to get away. And then, 10 minutes later, we're still trying to get away. And it's similar to Episode 5, where when they escape from Hoth, the Falcon gets chased and then hides in an asteroid field and chased again and then chased to Bespin and then captured on Bespin. So it's not like it's a huge deal to have something very similar happen throughout the whole movie. I guess the setting for the main situation just didn't change as much as episode 5. So episode 5 kept it a little bit more fresh as it went on. Either way, though, we have all these things happen, and then we end up in a spot where we have a lot of questions still. We want to see what's going to happen with Kylo Ren and Rey, and we want to know what's going to happen with Carrie Fisher, of course. But then we bring this new boy character who we don't even know his name, anything about him, and was he even one of the people who interacted with Finn and Rose earlier in the movie? Like, I don't really remember. I'm sure he was, but the point is, I don't think that was the right time to bring in a new character like that, because we haven't really fully established or fully flushed out everything else that's going to happen. It's not like we know how Kylo Ren and Rey stand or what's going to happen with Rey. It's more like things did happen and they almost kind of saw a connection together, but then they broke it after like 4 minutes. It isn't finished yet. We need more out of that before we can move on to something different. And who knows, maybe they're going to do the perfect Star Wars thing with this new boy character, and maybe he's going to be awesome, and I'm going to say, wow, I'm so glad they did it. But at this point, it just really confused me, or made me feel like a little empty, because we weren't quite full of what we needed to finish yet first. On the topic of Force, by the way, I love the way that Luke Skywalker described the Force to Rey. That's something that I personally said to myself when looking at how other people describe Star Wars and the Force. I've seen some people in some reviews or some videos say, well, this person has the Force. And I've always thought to myself, did they remember what Yoda first said about the Force? Life creates it. It's the energy, like Luke says, it's the energy that connects all living things. It doesn't mean someone has the Force, because we all have the Force. All of us are connected to each other through living, and all of us are connected through other living things, whether they're organic or whether they're living, moving things like animals. So I really like how they hit that right on the nose and said, this is what the Force is, this is how it works, and it was perfect to review that for the viewer as they were doing it for Rey. And that's what you really want in some movies. Someone who doesn't quite understand everything yet, and someone who does understand things very well, that they can describe to them and portray to the audience in a certain way. That was perfect, and I'm really glad they did it. Apparently, Luke Skywalker did some pretty interesting things that the viewer did not know about before this movie. I would not have expected him to attempt to murder one of his students, but dang, don't you think he would, talk to Kylo Ren or something like that? I mean, even Obi-Wan and Yoda did that to Luke. He talked to him. They said, you're going to be tempted by the dark side. Be aware of your feelings and stuff like that. So they didn't just try to murder him when they started sensing that something could go wrong here. In Kylo Ren's situation, I can understand how Luke would be very skeptical, but geez, just trying to murder the guy without saying anything at all? Or not bringing any help, or not figuring out another way to deal with it. I understand the concept of, let's give Luke a little bit darker of a history rather than some heroic, adventurous guy, because it does enhance the fact that he does want to be isolated from the Jedi world. That does support the idea that he doesn't want to be a part of any of this stuff anymore. Maybe they could have added another scene or two, or a couple more details, just to help enhance and show why Luke would make such a rash decision, or what seems to me like a rash decision. Yoda looked kind of weird, I guess. I wish his design of being a Force ghost or whatever was a little bit more consistent with what we saw in the original trilogy, and even in episode... Well, I guess nobody showed up in episodes 1, 2, and 3. But I really wish that it was more consistent. It had the blue glow to it. It wouldn't have to be exactly the same, but he just looked too real, too there, and these inconsistencies can just seem a little bit awkward. And that must just be because I'm an originalist, where I like the original Star Wars more, but I do wish it was a little bit more consistent. That's a minor problem, though. So, is Captain Phasma dead? I mean, there were so many other fake death scenes in the movie, I wouldn't be surprised if she wasn't. But it was interesting that most of us probably thought she was going to be in this movie much more than she was in Episode 7. And that's sort of true, but it still wasn't quite to the degree that we probably expected. And it was cool seeing her and Finn face off together, because they do sort of have some conflict together, or maybe not sort of, a lot of conflict together. And it was interesting at the end of fighting with Finn, Finn and that whole thing, that her helmet had broken, and you got to see her eye for a little bit, and they were kind of focusing on it, and I was trying to figure out why. Was it just a thing of we want to, show that, or remind the audience that she was truly human or something? I don't think any of us ever thought she wasn't human, so I don't know if that was the reason. It just was an interesting choice that they chose to have that breakage of the helmet at all, and then focus on her eye for a few seconds, and then what was up with some of like the fake death scenes in this movie or whatever? I got really confused about how and why they chose to do some things with these characters in terms of life or death. Here's the first example that I remember was Princess Leia being on the bridge of the ship or whatever. Ship gets blown up, or the bridge gets blown up. She flies into space, and I'm sure a lot of us in the audience, I was one of them, were saying, whoa, so, like, I'm not trying to be insensitive, but is this how they kind of remove Carrie Fisher's character from the franchise? It would have made sense. I mean, better doing it that way than in some horrible, dark way where they, do something awful to her character. So it made sense why that would have been the time to remove her from the franchise, but she was still there, and that was cool. I was like, yes, we're not done yet. More Princess Leia's good with me. I'm okay with that, especially because we don't have Carrie Fisher anymore, unfortunately. But then later in the movie, it just got kind of awkward. There's the scene where Finn's moving in to sacrifice himself, Independence Day style, to stop that giant cannon battering ram thing, I think they called it. And that was a cool idea. The fact that he said, I'm still going, like, I can't let them win, kind of thing. That was a good, realistic thing for him to say, a good moment for his character. And as soon as he said that, I was like, well, Rose is going to stop him, though, obviously. But then she didn't, because they started showing how he was really moving forward and there was nobody else around him, and it was focusing closely on his face for an extreme close-up, and he was feeling the heat and the pressure and the concept that my life has to end here to try to save everybody else. They had this whole kind of short sequence of that becoming a thing, and I was like, whoa, are they really going to kill off a new main character like this? Like, wow, that'd be a bold move. But then, of course, Rose saves him anyway, like I said. But then I was like, well, why'd you do the crazy sequence of him, like, coming on to his demise here? You don't really... I know there's other movies that do things like this where someone saves somebody else last second, but I don't think you should do that after having a sequence of, wait, this is really serious. Like, no one is here to help him. He's all alone. Plus, he was so far ahead of everybody else. How the heck did she get up there to stop him anyway? It just seemed like the creators are trying to make it too dramatic, and they're trying to force too many emotions out of us to think, wow, this is going to be so sad, Finn's going to die, just to have it not happen anyway. I think they could have shot that scene in a different way, a slightly different way, and it would have worked better for a movie. As a movie and as a Star Wars movie, that particular aspect is something we haven't really seen before in Star Wars, and that wasn't really the way to do it. Now, maybe they just wanted a way for Finn and Rose to finally have some kind of romantic connection, which I called pretty early on, and that's fine. And I guess if that's the way they wanted to bring that to light and say, hey, these two are going to be a romantic pair for, X number of time or X number of movies, great, but maybe try to find a different way to express that to the viewer. That General Hux guy, the dude who, was the kid in Love Actually, his character was so serious in Episode 7, which I liked. I liked the idea of having a non-Darth Vader or a non-Kylo Ren or a non-Emperor Imperial character being very serious and on top of things. In the original Star Wars movies, we had that Captain Piet and the General Veers and then eventually Admiral Piet, and they weren't, goofballs necessarily, but they were serious, they were proper, they kind of got things done and said, we're going to do this, and, protect this, we're going to hold here, not going to attack. That's fine, that's how Imperial officers should be. And in Episode 7, this General Hux guy, when he was screaming at all the stormtroopers, dictatorship style, which is a little bit forced, but still, I was like, yeah, that's a cool thing to have, a real, just regular Imperial commander, officer, whatever rank he is, who's that serious about getting things done. That's pretty cool. And so in this movie, it's not like he wasn't about getting things done, but gosh, some of his lines got really cheesy in there, and it didn't really, again, reflect the character that we've seen before. I guess this movie took course over a couple of days, so maybe he was just having a bad couple of days, I don't know, but it seemed just weird the way they did some of his lines. And it was cool to see him and Kylo Ren interact together, because they would have some kind of reason to have a little bit of tension there. They were both trying to appease this ultimate ruler of evil that they both interacted with often, and after that ruler went away, it's almost like who's really in charge now? Who's in charge of who's in charge of what, and then for us too, who's in charge of the other kind of thing. So I like the idea of having some sort of power struggle there and seeing that and how that might affect the way that the First Order gets run. I just wasn't a fan of the cheesiness or of the goofballness of the lines they did. Speaking of that Hux guy, near the beginning of the movie, I had a tough time. Sorry, my nose is itching. It's like right on the tip of my nose there. I had a hard time figuring out if I really liked the part at the beginning of the movie or I really hated the part at the beginning of the movie where Poe Dameron was messing with the General Hux guy through the communicator thing. At first, I was like, this is not cool. But then I realized, oh, this is like Poe Dameron. Like, of course he's doing this kind of thing. This is Poe Dameron in action, having fun with what he needs to do, and probably even, or potentially even, making the situation easier for himself to handle. It's probably not an easy thing to do, being a pilot in a single ship taking on an entire First Order dreadnought, whatever a dreadnought really is. So it makes sense why his character would do that. And it's believable that a character would do that. So I did end up liking the concept of let's give these Imperial guys let's give these First Order guys a bunch of crap and just make fun of them over the communicator thing. There were so many jokes and gags and slapstick humor, I would even say, that were just out of place and didn't work for a Star Wars movie for me. And again, most of the audience I was in the theater with was laughing and clapping and doing all sorts of reactions, and half the time I was like, that was just weird, guys. Stop. It made me feel uncomfortable a little bit. And I do enjoy, like, humor in Star Wars, but I just think whatever happened to, never tell me the odds, that was a part of the character, rather than, here's one example from Episode 8, someone trying to force pull a lightsaber to them, and then someone else making it just wrap around them and smack them in the head. And especially during a really serious scene where you have the most evil person currently in the universe that we know of trying to convince someone who we like to be evil, it's like, that's not the time to have some slapstick humor when you just bonk someone on the head with a lightsaber. I'm almost surprised they didn't have like a bonk sound effect when they did that. My favorite joke in the movie, because some of them were done really well, I did genuinely laugh 3 or 4 times. I never counted specifically. But after my one single viewing of the lines I could remember, there was that one joke where Leia said to C-3PO, "Get that nervous look off your face." That was perfect. That's exactly the kind of thing that someone would say to C-3PO. And of course he can't really convey any emotions, but his character is so classic, and it's so well known, and especially to Leia, who's been with him for 30 plus years now, I was like, top notch, that's how you do it. The character who became like the substitute admiral person in General Leia Organa's place, I don't really get how they could have done it in a way that made more sense to me, but the way they did that character just confused me for most of the movie. Because at the beginning, when she comes into play, she was there and she's like, I'm here to help, I'm here to do the job. Fine, cool. And then when Poe Dameron starts communicating with her, they kind of portray her as one who doesn't listen, and one who doesn't offer answers, and one who is not really there to help. So it almost makes her seem to be like an anti-hero who's on the light side, who's in the good guys team, But at that point, I was thinking, wait, so is she like the movie's telling us, or the movie's kind of portraying her in a way where we're not supposed to like her character? Does that mean she's going to be like a traitor? Is she the one who's revealing where the Resistance is jumping to light speed? Wouldn't that be interesting if there was a traitor within the good guys team type of thing? But in this case, she wasn't, but she was portrayed to us as if we weren't supposed to like her, and so I didn't really. And then later in the movie, after she sacrifices herself, which is fair, Leia says to Poe Dameron, she had good intentions the whole time. She had a good plan. You should have respected that type of thing. But I was like, then why couldn't she say any of that? It's like she did have a plan where, the ships couldn't be followed after they escaped, or at least tracked, or whatever. They said something about that, but why was it constantly referred to as such a secret? Why was Poe Dameron constantly being portrayed as the voice of reason that nobody would listen to? It set a really awkward tone in that ship during those those bridge scenes where I didn't know what to think about either character, like who was right and why. Now, we're more led to believe that Poe Dameron's the one we trust because he's a main character and he really was acting like a voice of reason. That's the type of thing we've seen in lots of different movies. So I do really wish they did that character, that Vice Admiral substitute character, differently, because it didn't really follow a lot of the classic character elements that a film normally would utilize to have a character like that. I did appreciate the fact that she did want to stay behind and sacrifice herself to, buy a lot more time for the rebels or resistance to escape. But isn't it kind of weird how she said she needed to stay behind to pilot the ship, but then she spent most of that time just not piloting anything? Did she really need to actually be there for it to still float along in space? The shields were still up. Did she not have to, hold down the shields up button or something like that? It seemed pretty autonomous to me, but I don't know. That's another minor detail. Have you ever heard somebody mention fuel in the entire Star Wars saga before? It makes perfect sense why ships have fuel, and I've always wondered about that. I've always thought they never seem to have a problem. They never seem to have to worry about it. Do they just have, such a small source of energy that can last infinitely? And I guess we have our answer now in the Star Wars universe, that they really don't have infinite fuel sources. It's just interesting how that type of thing has never come up before. Not a big deal, but it struck me as odd that they would bring it up at all. Is there just some sort of force connection telephone, by the way, these days, or like FaceTime? It was kind of weird to see characters do that. I could understand if we've seen characters do the same type of thing before, but it just kind of came out of nowhere. We had Rey and Kylo Ren talking to each other as if they had their phones out and were FaceTiming. And I know we've seen Darth Vader communicate with Luke a little bit in Episode 5, but that was a little bit different. It wasn't like a two-way FaceTime radio video thing. It was like Darth Vader using some power to kind of strike some words of fear, some words of, fear tactics into Luke Skywalker's mind. And I thought that's a cool scene because it's Darth Vader doing what he does best, being evil, and kind of taunting Luke with his words. And Luke, he wasn't able to see Darth Vader, he was just able to hear, and it was just like a thing where I was like, oh gosh, intimidation right there for our main character Luke, the poor boy. And here it's like, we're walking around and, hey, put on a shirt. It was like, what? And that again, that was another weird joke where people laughed, and I was like, why is that, what did that add to the scene? It really didn't add anything other than, oh, they want to make the audience laugh. And I know you want to make an audience laugh, but I don't think that's the way to do it. We laughed plenty in episodes 4, 5, and 6. It just wasn't for reasons that were so, I don't want to say immature, but not well thought out or so useless. I don't know. I'm having such a struggle with this movie, trying to figure out what was the point of so much stuff in it. I really don't know how I feel about those little creature things that Chewbacca hung out with for a little bit. It was so forced. And I love animals. Trust me, if anybody here loves animals on this earth, it's me. But it was just so forced to be like, we're so cute, love us. And was there any real reason to love them? Why did the creators why did they feel the need to add such a forced creature to the story? It doesn't make sense to me why they did it. They even had they had two separate shots where they show the little fluff ball thing, and it has a look on its face with the eyes, and then it cut back to Chewie, and then it did it again, and I'm like, geez, okay, we get it, there's cute little creature things. You don't have to shove it into our faces and say, love these, they're really cute. God, it bugged the heck out of me, and it's stuff like this that kept taking me out of the movie, and it was so hard to say that I loved it the whole time. I still don't know if I love it. It's hard to even say that I like it a lot. Maybe it's just okay, and I never would have expected this. I was so pumped for this movie, and I don't think it was just the fact that I overexerted my excitement and it kind of didn't meet expectations. I was excited, and I was like, yes, this is going to be good, and I even said in my pre-episode 8 video, don't let the little things get to you. Just appreciate Star Wars for what it is, enjoy it, try not to let little things get to you and take away from the rest of the movie. But there were so many things in this movie that took away from the rest of the movie. I just couldn't handle it. And it's okay for someone to not like a movie. I'm still trying to like this movie so bad, and it's not working out so well. It sounds like I need to see it again. Now that I know what I'm in for, and now that I know what to expect, maybe I can take it more in terms of why is this a good thing, rather than why did this keep pulling me out of the movie. What was the point of his character? Like, this Lord Supreme Ruler Snoke guy? He had nothing other than he was just an evil figure. And that's exactly what his character was in episode 7. He was the hologram, a giant hologram, of some evil character who was there for the sake of being evil. Now, I figured after episode 7, we're like, oh, we're going to find out who Snoke is and more about him, where he came from, how he learns about the Force, and what he's done to Kylo Ren, maybe what he's done to other people. But no, he was just, the same evil guy being evil, saying evil things. And the Emperor Palpatine in episode 6 and 5, he was there to be evil too, but they didn't really imply that he had a huge influence on other people. Yes, Darth Vader was his apprentice at some point, or I guess you could still call him his apprentice, but Darth Vader was an already established character. We knew who he was, we knew what he wanted, we knew who he literally was in terms of Luke's dad. But with Kylo Ren, there's still so much that we didn't know by the end of episode 7, and when episode 8 came along, we learned more from Luke's perspective of things, but this Snoke guy, no mention at all. He was just there to be evil, and he died being evil, and that was it. What was the point of his character? If you're going to have him in the first movie of this new trilogy, and you're going to have him again, give us something. They gave us all kinds of goofy slapstick humor and this weird immature tone through some scenes that it was almost like, we want the younger people to laugh. Don't worry about the actual Star Wars emotion and history going on here. Just make the young people laugh. But we had so many things going on with goofy random scenes that were out of place, or scenes that took too long to finish, or scenes that we just kept going back to over and over. And instead of fleshing out a character like Snoke and figuring out anything about him, they could have thrown in one single scene where we learn anything about his character and why he does what he does, or how he's done what he's done, or where he got the resources to complete what he's completed. But nothing, and he dies, which it was in a cool way. It was really cool to see Kylo Ren do something like that. But then it was like this big turn of a character, and then just turn around right again and say, well, if you're not going to join me, I guess I'll just stay evil. It was like they had a character arc that just... It was like a re-art. I don't even know. Are they still going to try to pull the same thing? That's one thing I'm worried about for episode 9. Are they going to try to pull the same thing where it's like, oh, well, we can still turn Kylo Ren back to the light side? It's like, how many times do we need to bring this up? He has the options, and this time he really went with the light side option for about 4 minutes, and after that it was like, well, if you're not going to join me, then I guess I'll just go back to being evil and I'll be the ruler now. It's like, pick one or the other. Is the character going to go this way or the other way? It is good to have some mystery, and it is good to have some, well, could the character go this way or that way kind of mentality for the viewer. We do want to try to predict for ourselves what's going to happen, but if you're just going to go back and forth willy-nilly about it without any real huge reason why, or without any real big character reasons why, like for Rey, maybe she almost really did consider trying to be evil or trying to rule with him, but it didn't really seem like it. She was quiet for most of that scene after he offered her the chance, and all she ended up doing was trying to take back her lightsaber. So did we really see any motivation from her character either way? Did we really see any reaction from her character? I guess a little bit in terms of her saying, no, but then you can't do this. But again, then what was the point? Why did he help her at all if just minutes later he's going to be her enemy again? I just don't get it. And again, it brings me back to the thing I was saying earlier about it's almost like they just did every idea that got put on the table. Maybe at some point someone had an idea that said, let's see if Rey and Kylo Ren almost kind of team up together and then rule things at the same time. And then they had the idea of, well, we got to have Kylo Ren be good for a couple minutes, or good at all. That way the audience can be like, yes! And that happened! The audience clapped like crazy when Kylo Ren killed Snoke, and it was almost funny to me later, a few minutes later, when he just went right back to kind of being evil. And I was like, yeah, you guys laughed at that, but the joke's on you because he wasn't, he chose a light side for a couple minutes and that was it. So it was just every idea, it seems like, or so many ideas, too many ideas, at the very least, too many ideas, maybe not all of them, were used in this movie. And that includes the big story pieces like that, with Kylo Ren and Rey, evil, good, destroying Snoke, and then even in the minor moments with just goofy comedy. It's all culminating in this big whirlpool where my head is actually physically hurting trying to figure out what was going on, and I'm trying so hard to like the movie, and I was trying to say I do, but I'm just so confused by it. Probably the most minor thing that came up during this movie that kind of threw me off for a second, and it's not even a problem, just as a linguist kind of person, I was like, oh, that's odd. But when they were on that casino planet thing, and Finn said, the cops are coming, we gotta hurry, I was thinking, do they really say cops in a Star Wars universe? Like, is that really a word that we use on regular Earth in real life that would somehow be the same word in Star Wars? It just seemed odd to me. Now, to police, or police, is obviously, a verb anyway, regardless of being English or humanity in real life, but isn't cops more of like a slang term? It's always kind of odd when that happens. And the same thing happens whenever I watch Empire Strikes Back. I love this scene, but it's kind of weird when you think about it. When they're trying to get away from Hoth, and Han's, trying to turn on the Falcon, trying to get it out of there, and Leia says, would it help if I got out and pushed? Isn't that more of a joke that we would have in real life, more than in a Star Wars universe where most ships take off, either vertically or have jets to do things where pushing wouldn't really help? Now, the way Han responds by saying, it might, is hilarious, and I love that interaction between the characters, but it's always been such an odd thing to me. So the most minor detail is that, and it's almost just interesting rather than a problem. It just came to my mind when watching the movie. This is the most unsure I've ever been about a Star Wars movie, kind of similar to Rogue One. I just don't know how I feel about that one, and it's so hard to make a sound, just single comment of this movie was great or this movie was bad. And it is, of course, hard to make single sentence judgments about all movies, but this one in particular, I tried so hard to like. If you didn't like my review because I don't know how I feel about Star Wars, I'm sorry, I really am. I do love Star Wars, and I'm not going to say it's a terrible movie. There were just too many things about it that I couldn't figure out. And I don't think it was because I had such high expectations for this movie and they were under-resolved. It's more of the fact that I had expectations for it to be a normal Star Wars movie, and the style was just so different than what you would expect for Star Wars. For instance, and I thought this after seeing Episode 7, or during the Episode 7 viewing, my first viewing, there's that scene in Episode 7 where Rey first touches the lightsaber, and she kind of has that vision of all of the Kylo Ren things and other various sounds and emotions and visuals, and that was cool. It wasn't like that was a bad scene, but at that time I was like, whoa, that was interesting, because we've never seen something like that in Star Wars before. I honestly can't think, whether you want to call it a flashback or not, I honestly can't think of any other time in Star Wars Episodes 1 through 6 where there was like a flashback moment. And even in the times when they would have characters seeing things that weren't going on right around them, it was still happening right then and there. I'm thinking about Luke stacking rocks and standing on his hands using the Force. They were talking about what he was seeing in the future. It wasn't necessarily showing a future thing. It was like, yeah, that's what I'm seeing right now. And it was really focused on the character. And that works really well. And I'm not saying they couldn't have a flashback at all, but it was a very different thing to see something so new. And now in Episode 8, a lot of the stylistic choices were different than original Star Wars. We've never seen two characters talk as if they were using, like, the Force phone thing, whatever, I don't even know what that's called. So that was okay, it wasn't a problem, it makes sense. And then that odd scene where Rey was looking for her parents all of a sudden, or at least she went into the dark cave in Luke's island thing, and there was that scene of the infinite rays doing that that was a well-shot scene. I like how, she would do the hand motions and snap. That was a cool little thing to watch happen. What's left? Anything I do like a lot? I loved seeing Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher actually interact. It's the first real scene we've seen them have dialogue in since before the Battle of Endor in Episode 6. They had the conversation where he revealed that you're basically my sister, right? And that was really the most... I mean, we saw them, be happy together at the end of Episode 6, but that was the most we saw of them together interacting since before that time. So it was great to see them interact. I thought it was in a good way. It was kind of cute how he said, your hair looks nice. It felt like, genuine sibling affection. And then I love what he did for C-3PO, because he started to walk by, and I was like, no, you can't just ignore C-3PO. Like, he almost did to Chewie, by the way. I was like, where's his positive reaction to seeing Chewbacca? I mean, Chewbacca, his reaction was more of angry at Luke for not coming back with them, but there wasn't a single bit of a positive interaction between the two throughout the whole movie. Really? Just think about Star Wars Episode 5, where when they had to separate and go separate ways for a while after, while leaving Hoth, and Chewie hugs him from around the shoulders, and it was like a nice little affectionate scene where it's like, okay, I get it, we're good friends. And what you saw in Episode 8 didn't exactly reflect the good friendship that they had. And this was 30 years ago, so you'd think that by now, it's like old, good, I mean, it'd be huge, right? Especially if you haven't seen him for a while. So I don't know. Anyway, when he walked by a C-3PO, I was glad that he gave him a little wink. That was a good thing for a C-3PO moment. If he had winked at any other character other than maybe R2-D2, I would have been like, oh, that's kind of weird. But that was a good move there. And speaking of moves, I love the line of, that was a cheap move, R2-D2. That was a good interaction for him to have with R2, and for R2 to show that clip of Princess Leia, the original Princess Leia's clip of asking Obi-Wan for help. That was pretty cool. I don't think most of us saw that coming, and most of us would have figured that did R2-D2 still have that downloaded in his databanks? It's almost hard to believe that it's still there after so long, but that's okay. Again, such a minor detail. I just want to appreciate that we got to see it in a Star Wars movie again, and also that we got to see Luke Skywalker react to it. That's the most important thing. He reacted to it 30 plus years ago, and here he is again, trying to figure out what he wants to do and what he feels like he needs to do. That's the whole point of character, and why it's so important for us as viewers to see that, because they're the ones who lead us through the story, and they're the ones who we care about how they feel as they go through the story. So I think that was really well done. That's one of the many things about this movie that they got right. I think that's it. I don't think there's anything else I want to say about The Last Jedi right now, and I'm really eager to see about what others are saying about it, but I've been totally avoiding other opinions until I can share my own. But I have noticed that the Angry Video Game Nerd has his up online, so I'm going to check that one out. And my absolute favorite movie reviewers ever are the guys who do Half in the Bag. You have to check out their reviews. They're the most intelligent people when it comes to movie analyzation, movie reviews, and things like that. So I guarantee they're going to have a good one, although I don't think I've seen theirs up yet, so I might have to wait a day or two. Either way, though, find your favorite movie reviewer, watch their review, read about all those articles, and figure out what your opinion really is. But don't let anybody else persuade you or make you feel influenced to feel it their way. Make sure you think about the movie in your own way, and only use those opinions to help form it for yourself. My name is Just a Fan, and I thank you for joining me on the beginning of this new Star Wars journey. Now, I gotta go back to training.